and welcome to JD and Liz Talk. I'm Liz McMullen.
And I'm JD Glass. Today we'd like to welcome author, DJ, and movie connoisseur, the Queen of Hearts herself, Georgia Beers, to the show. Hey, Georgia.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Doing good. What you up to?
I am sitting in my pajamas.
Me too! I'm in my plaid flannel pajamas and a cotton tee. I'm perfectly comfortable.
Why didn't anybody tell me this was a pajama party? Excuse me. I'm getting dressed now. Can you hear that? That's my zipper.
Woo!
Sorry, I'm removing my sweatshirt and my shoes so I can pretend that I'm in pajamas. Here, wait, you can hear them. So, since we're in our pajamas, this is kind of, there we go. I'm in my shorts now.
Hot.
So now we can all be in our pajamas.
Perfect.
Which, considering that my jeans have this really huge hole, like that runs from like all across my butt, it might as well sort of have been in my shorts anyway.
There you go.
So, but in the interest of modesty, I am still wearing my socks. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here, Georgia. Now, I know the number one thing people always want to ask you about is writing, because, everybody wants to know how to write. And you must have said 1,000 times, well, first I learned how to speak English, then I learned how to spell it. Then I sit there and I put these different words together and boom, magic happens. And you probably said that so many times that you need a glass of wine and can win like shot games.
I do constantly talk about the magic.
We could talk about the magic, but the magic I understand happens with wine and with staring. And that I want to talk about. I want to talk about staring and the staring process in writing. Tell me about staring.
Staring is incredibly important. And I did not realize that it was an actual, literal part of a writing career until I became a fan of Ann Patchett, who's one of my very favorite writers in the whole wide world. And she talks in one of her books about staring and how she can spend an entire day staring at the wall or staring out the window or staring at her screen. And it doesn't mean she's zoned out. She's working things out in her head. But people don't understand that that is a huge part of it. And if I'm sitting here doing nothing, it doesn't mean I'm not working. It's kind of hard to justify, but it's true.
Well, the thing is, do you find that you have, like, other people walk in, they're like, oh my God, she's got the 1,000-yard stare on, quick, run away? Or
Sometimes, usually not. Usually they think that I'm waiting for them to talk to me.
Like, no, I'm sorry, I'm waiting for my characters to talk to me.
Exactly.
So do you find that you're more of like a foreground, mid-ground, or background kind of starer? Do you need certain environment?
Middle distance. Middle distance. And I need silence. I can't have music or TV or something on, or I get completely distracted.
I can understand that.
I know a lot of people write to music, and I you know what, more power to them, but I can't do it. It totally distracts me from what I'm doing.
Like when I'm writing, I need to tidy up my office, because if there's clutter or things on the floor or anything in my peripheral vision, it is distracting to me.
Yeah.
So in addition to, like, I actually bought earplugs.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I bought earplugs. Like, there's like 1 million of them in the package, and it is magic in the daytime when people are up and about and moving throughout the house, so that I can focus without saying, everybody be quiet, I need silence, I gotta write.
Mm-hmm.
I just start thinking oh, it's the precious artist time. It's like, no, it's the frustrated artist time, and if you really don't stop, I may hurt you.
Right. Well, and it depends on where I am, because I can take my laptop to Barnes & Noble or to a coffee shop, and I can write there, and I can tune out the noise around me. But if I'm home in my studio, I can't have, I don't have to have, the house doesn't have to be silent, but the room I'm in has to be silent.
I get that. Well, when you're in a coffee shop or Barnes & Noble or whatever, that's like the Walla Walla sound in the background. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a general buzz. But I know for me, working in my own environment, now sometimes I do use music. I don't use it all the time. It depends really on where I'm at in process.
Yep, a lot of people do.
It really depends, because I can work in complete silence as well. But when I'm hitting the staring zone, no music, because the staring zone means I'm developing something, and music, noise, even birds out the window will interrupt my process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And won't let it go where it needs to go. So then I have to start staring all over again.
Right.
Or do the dishes, come back and stare some more,
That I do too. Yep, little housework, some staring, little housework, little staring.
Little
laundry, little staring.
What do you find, Georgia, that that sparks you when you're either, aside from staring, when you're stuck, or like what kind of experience are you having when the inspiration hits? I know that if I'm doing like cardio or doing a long walk or something where my body is working but my brain is free to roam, I find that my ideas come at those points more so than if I just sit there and like hope for things to happen.
That happens exactly the same for me. I usually, if I get stuck, I will go take the dogs for a walk. Or a lot of times I have, my exercise bike is right here in my studio. And so a lot of times when I'm riding, I can see like my whiteboard and the stuff I've got written on it. And I can see all of the stuff that I'm working on. And a lot of times things just click into place as I'm pedaling. So I don't know if it's the physical exertion that occupies everything except my brain, so that my brain can go, oh, this is where I want to go. But that helps. I always need some kind of a physical, go somewhere, do something to clear my head, and then I usually come up with what I need pretty quickly.
For me, sometimes, I'll do the workout, a very short workout, because I find that I'm getting frustrated. So right there, that, working out itself helps with that, so you can, because you're building stress, and isn't that what happens? You get to this point and you really want to do whatever comes next, and now you're stressing yourself because what comes next. And so I think that the exercise itself helps to break those stress hormones down, if you would, and free up your mind for thinking in a more clear fashion, as opposed to, oh my God, when and how am I going to come up with this next part? You get out of your own way.
Exactly.
The other thing I find for me is that I need to take breaks, in the sense that when I hit that impasse, or I've hit that point where it's just a little, sometimes it just gets to be too much. You've been doing this all day, you've been writing, you've been editing, you've been looking at this chapter over and over and over. I will go paint.
Yep, getting away is helpful.
Yeah, and for me, painting is a complete... It's such a complete focus, in terms of, getting the material down. Drawing is the same thing. It's very technical in some ways. But I have to, because you create it in your head just like a book, but then after that it becomes all about the technicality. And that technicality forces me to just be in that one space at that time. Be here now.
Yeah.
And then it'll come.
Georgia, since we're talking about different creative platforms like painting, I heard that you were a DJ, and my feeling is, for the best DJs, they have a sense of connection and chemistry and awareness around, but also the ability to impact the mood at the club or wherever you're playing the music, and you kind of have to get the rhythm of what they're ready for when it's quiet and not a lot of people there, and then it changes when there are more, and of course there needs to be the breather song. So how did you get into DJing, and how did your creative process work?
Well, that was many, 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 many moons ago when I was in college. Yeah, so last year, exactly. Thank you, JD. I'm glad we cleared that up. I was a broadcasting major in college. And I really, for some reason, I don't even know what it was, I really gravitated towards the radio station. Because we did, it was broadcasting, so it was television. I ran camera, I did anchor work, I wrote news, but I really liked the radio station part of it. And I don't know... When I went to school in Mansfield, Pennsylvania, and it's a small school, and it was pretty easy to become a member of the radio station staff, so it wasn't difficult for me to get in there and start learning stuff. And I just really enjoyed DJing, and I liked music. Music was very important to me back then. And I had a radio show, and I also DJ'd for the student union on campus, we had dances every Friday and Saturday night, and so I would do some of the DJing, and some of my fellow DJs would do some of the DJing. But yeah, you had to, especially when you were doing one of the dances, you had to pay attention to the people that were dancing, and you could clear a dance floor really, really quickly if you put the wrong music on.
All right, a dance floor clearing song.
Oh man, I can't even think of one now, but there were some, and it could be a song that I really liked, and I'd put it on, and people were like, "Okay, we're not dancing to this," and shoom, it would just clear right off, and you'd be like, "Okay, fade, put on the next one." It was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
I've never been a DJ, but I am an avid dancer in clubs. And so it's so funny because what inspires me to dance can change. There can be a song that 1 week or 1 month or one part in my life that I am ignited and I need to get out on the dance floor, close my eyes, soak in the music, and move. And sometimes that same song does nothing for me at all. And a lot of my friends are DJs, and they're like, "What's wrong, Liz? Why aren't you dancing?" I'm like, "I'm not feeling it." So sometimes, there's no particular crowd clearing song, but sometimes it's like a hit or a miss. And what could be fabulous for one group, like maybe on a Friday, and a certain type of folks that would be there, is different than a Saturday or a Wednesday crowd. And you have to be very dynamic, and I guess have somewhat of a thin skin and be a problem solver, to be a really good DJ.
Yeah.
So what kind of music did you find that you gravitated towards the most then? And would you say that your taste have changed in the interim? Not changed, grown?
A little bit. I was always drawn to pop. And when I was in college, the big thing was the 12-inch dance mix.
Yes.
Because we still had vinyl back then.
Hey, vinyl's made a huge comeback.
It has. It totally has. So yeah, I played a lot of Prince. Madonna. I mean, Madonna was huge in the late '80s, early '90s. I mean, not that she's not now, but that was like her peak. I'm trying to think what else. Sheena Easton, I loved.
Sheena.
Yeah. I don't even remember anymore. I mean, there was so much. There was so much.
Well, Prince dominated. Between Prince and Madonna, they just completely dominated the airwaves.
Absolutely, yeah.
Then you had the beginning of the boy bands, and those groups. And do you remember Salt and Pepper?
Yes, I do. That was the tail end of my college career.
And the tail end of theirs.
And we hear the alarm going off. Ring the alarm, ring the alarm. Do you know how many times I've been driving and some song samples an alarm and I'm looking around for a cop? I'm like, "Oh shit, am I speeding?"
No, your radio is too loud.
So Georgia, not so much like what's on your playlist, but now when you use your iPod, or if you're listening to CDs on, a loop of sorts, what is your go-to music? Like what, I know it probably changes in different times of day and according to mood, but what really moves you? What are you interested in at this point?
Well, I've always been a fan of the singer-songwriter, and Sarah Bareilles has been my go-to music for the last probably 2 or 3 years, since she's really kind of blown onto the scene. I do have other stuff that I like when I'm on the bike, I've got to play some dance music, and I try to download newer things, the song Happy from Despicable Me 2 is like in my head all the time, as well as Let It Go from Frozen, which I can't ever stop singing. But Sarah Bareilles is definitely go-to.
In the original interview that we recorded, we played Sarah Bareilles' song Gravity. Unfortunately, our video has been blocked in some countries, quote unquote, because of the copyrighted content. So what I want you to do is press pause and go online and find the video for Sarah Bareilles' Gravity, listen to it, and then rejoin this episode, and you can understand where we are coming from with all of our comments.
Wow.
Goosebumps!
You like it?
Yeah, I've actually never heard this artist before, and that's just, Wow.
Yeah, I thought you might like that one, JD.
I'm a little speechless. I can see you. This is certainly not the sort of thing you want to do anything but just feel. You just want to listen to it and just feel to it. Sit there with your glass of wine and, really just sink into it.
She's got a lot of stuff like that. And she's got upbeat stuff too, but her ballads are really, she's a very wise 34-year-old. I love her lyrics.
I can see why. Well, they're kind of epic in storytelling, which is a kind of an important part, I think, of being, good music, is that it does the same thing that a story does, it tells a story of some sort.
And I was listening to it. I had to remind myself, listen to the lyrics, because I was getting so lost in the sound of it. Not that that's not okay.
Right.
But I wanted to try and soak up the meaning in the lyrics because I knew one of the reasons why you chose it was because of the content. But her voice is just so stunning. And I had no idea that, like, her other songs were like that. Sometimes with musicians, singer-songwriters, they have one song that really has an impact. And then the rest are not impactful, is my nicest way of putting it.
That's known in the vernacular as the one-hit wonder. Is that right, Georgia?
That's right. Exactly it.
Well, I mean, the other thing is that it goes beyond one-hit wonder in the sense of, remember back in the day where you had to buy the whole album? You couldn't just buy the song?
Right.
And
I'm only 21. I don't know what you're talking about.
I understand, JD, but I'll speak very slowly so you understand. And
fresh ears, yes.
It's
Liz, you need to speak quickly. If she's only 21, she's got the attention span of a gnat.
That's right. Quick, I'm texting
all
while
right.
I'm talking. Come
on. All right. Stop tweeting.
I got the thumbs of a cheetah.
Oh, my thumbs of a cheetah. Now that is a post for Facebook. But what I was trying to say is that sometimes it's worth the exploration. And I don't have the gnat-like problem, but sometimes I don't have patience for listening to things I'm unfamiliar with. And I find if I watch the video, sometimes I'm more receptive, or if I hear it live, I'm more receptive. And one of my favorite artists is Pink. And, if I didn't buy the album, I would miss out on so many amazing songs.
Right.
Like Crystal Ball is amazing. And, there are a bunch of gems like Beam Me Up that are never going to be videos and are never going to be a hit, but are, fantastic. And I feel the same way about the song you just shared with us. It may never get that kind of radio play, but it should.
That particular CD has no songs on it that I don't like. Usually when I get a CD, there's a song or two that isn't my favorite and I skip over it when I'm in the car or whatever. That CD, that's her first one. I don't skip anything on it. I love everything on it.
That's a freshman effort. That's really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's absolutely impressive.
And she has two more after that one. Gravity is from her first CD. She's got two more after that, which are both equally as good and very different. I feel like she really kind of changes and flows and, does different stuff with her music. Not so much so that she sounds completely different, but she's definitely growing and experimenting as an artist.
That's awesome. And that's the kind of thing we're supposed to do. I hope, and at least I know that I reach for. So, okay, it's a big burning question for me. All right? So, I am dying to ask it. So I know that, you've done the awesome DJ thing, and I mean, you're Georgia Beers, you're the queen of hearts, you are the queen of lesbian romance in that sense, and, well, not even in that sense, just in general. So, I also know that you're really, really into film, and into movies specifically. So, and in fact, you're involved with the Image Out Gay and Lesbian Film Festival, so just tell me more. Just in general, like, tell me what got you into film. I mean, obviously now I know you studied broadcasting. That makes sense. But what got you into the film aspect of it? Why work with the festival? What does that do for you? Like, how does that, reward you in its way?
Well, it's interesting because it lets me see a lot of films that I, in any other case, would probably never see. And sometimes that's a good thing. But the Image Out Festival here in Rochester is the largest gay and lesbian film festival on the East Coast outside of New York City. And most people don't know that. I mean, because there's one in Miami and there's one in Philadelphia, and they're all over the East Coast. But ours is really big. It runs for 10 days.
Wow.
We usually show anywhere from 40 to 50 films, and I am on the programming committee, which means I get to screen all of the movies and help decide which ones we're going to show and which ones we're not, and why. I, as a young lesbian in Rochester, would always go to the festival. And like most people, I would complain when there wasn't good stuff. And
Sure.
right, and the way to counteract that is to join the programming committee and see what's there and help them pick stuff. And so I've been part of it. Let's see, I moved away for 2 years, but I was involved probably 5 years before that, and then I came. So I'm probably close to 10 years on the programming committee. And then in addition to screening the movies and helping to choose the schedule, we also write up the programs. So we get to do a little synopsis of each film and tell people why they'll like it and sort of what it's about, kind of try to entice people to come see each film. And it's really something I enjoy. And, some nights I come home from the screening and I'll say to Bonnie, oh my God, that was the worst movie I've ever seen. Can I get those 90 minutes of my life back? Like last week's was like that because we're screening already. But then a lot of times now, because technology has improved, now rather than getting a physical screener, a lot of times it's a link, which means that our programming head can send us an email and say, here, watch this movie, which I did this afternoon. And the one I watched this afternoon was really great. So, I mean, it's just, I get to see a lot of cool stuff from a lot of different countries. And it's just been something I really, really enjoy doing.
Do you see a lot of really good movies coming out, or just stuff that you would definitely say, hey, you're going to want to find this, you're going to want to watch this, And there's an and with this question. How do you think those movies compare in terms of validation and interest to the gay community as you know it, as opposed to like the popular ones, the quote unquote popular mainstream ones, like A, Brokeback Mountain, or B, The Kids Are All Right, which, or this new one, Blue is the Warmest Color. Like
or
how
Better Than Chocolate.
That wasn't really a mainstream movie.
It wasn't? Well, I watched it over
No.
and over again. I even, sometimes when I was cleaning around the house, I would have it playing in the background. I just loved it so much. It really was awesome. I didn't realize it was, well, it's not mainstream as in like huge, big Hollywood mainstream, but it was a pretty popular film.
It was popular in the gay and lesbian genre. It was not a mainstream film.
So Boys Don't Cry was mainstream, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
There we go. So here we have okay, two people who die and a gay woman who sleeps with a straight dude. So how do we say those films compare in mainstream to the stuff that you're seeing in the indie film festival?
Well, I mean, the thing you have to remember is the target audience, and if you're going to target the lesbians, I mean, that's 10% of the population. So most likely you're not going to get picked up by a mainstream movie company. A lot of times we'll screen something that's very popular and we won't be able to have it for our festival because at some point it gets picked up for a wide theatrical release.
Wow.
Yeah, like the movie Concussion. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was released last year. And that was something we were very interested in, but it got picked up and it was released. We had a wide release. I don't know how well it did. I saw it. It was wonderful. But I don't know, if I have to wonder if they make the money going wide release that they would make if they focused on the film festivals all across the country. I honestly don't know how that works. I do find that it's interesting to see movies from other countries. A lot of times those are the best ones.
Really?
Yeah, and especially there's some stuff coming out of the Middle East over the last couple of years that has really been amazing to me.
What are some titles?
There's always a little. Well, it's funny. One of our biggest complaints at the programming committee is that it was too European. Even though the programming committee is made up of a lot of people who are either film students or film buffs or filmmakers, it doesn't change the fact that our audience is a regular audience of regular people. And so they're not always going to appreciate the same thing that a film student is going to appreciate. And so we have to take that stuff into consideration. Lesbians like a romantic comedy with a happy ending. And most people on the programming committee will roll their eyes and sigh and be bored by a romantic comedy with a happy ending. I happen to love them since that's what I write. But that's also what sells the most. That will be the most well-attended movie at the festival. And when they fill out the audience comment cards, that will be the most popular movie, without fail.
That's cool.
I always find that interesting, and I always try to defend the romantic comedy at the programming screenings, and people just roll their eyes.
Well, the thing with the rom-coms is that we get a moment to laugh at ourselves, don't we?
Yep.
We get to validate our goofiness, because we are goofy. That's who's not goofy in love.
Well, and who doesn't want to feel good at the end of the movie?
Exactly. So hey, it's win-win. You get to feel goofy, you get to feel good, and you got to eat popcorn.
Exactly.
There was food that went with that. So, do you have maybe a script on your horizon?
I think so. I mean, I've got a couple in my head. I've got some ideas. I've got a series idea. I mean, there's things I want to do. I think somewhere down the road that might happen.
I think Snow Globe is that the title, if I'm remembering. Yep. I think that would be a fantastic romantic comedy.
Thank you. I think so too.
It's so visual, and it has a storyline that is somewhat familiar to something that you might watch when it's like Thanksgiving or Christmas or whenever they have a lot of people coming in. And I was like, yeah, that has mass appeal, yet it has some real stuff in there as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I want to segue into what is another awesome part of our show, which is food.
Georgia, we can talk forever about food.
Well, I bring it up because, obviously we try to engage all the senses when we write, but there are some authors who make me incredibly hungry, and that would be you and Andy Marquette. You make me starving. I have to put it down, go down to the kitchen, or if I'm really desperate, drive to the grocery store.
Well, I'm half Italian, so food is a large part of my life.
And you have a book coming out called Olive Oil and White Bread. And
yes, I do.
If the joke in my family, we're not Italian, but we're Croatian, and it's kind of close in terms of the food that we eat and culturally. And so I was like, olive oil and bread. We say in our family that if we had to have a bread alone diet, that would be fine. So what is this book about?
This is I'm calling it a romance about a long-term couple, because that's the most common email that I've gotten from readers over the years is, when are you going to write a romance about a long-term couple? So this book starts with the happily ever after and then goes on for 23 years. And I'm in a 20-year relationship, and you go through stuff. There are things that you deal with when you're together that long, and I thought it would be interesting to touch on some of that stuff. And, some of it is hard, and some of it people will nod their heads at, and some of it people will cover their eyes and be like, oh, my God. And, I mean, it was hard to write, but I think that it's something that hasn't been done very often.
That's important stuff.
Anybody could do it would be you, because you have that you have that really, really great knowledge and insight, just into the human condition, period, end. Plus, obviously, you're in a 20-year relationship, so you've got all that insight and all that experience to really make a work like this, full-blooded, a real Georgia Beers work, which immerses you completely, and takes you on a trip.
I've got material, baby. I've got material.
Woo!
Yes, ma'am, you do.
The other thing that I discovered, it was actually Lacey Gardner who brought this up. She had been at a reading, and one of the calls that a lot of the women there wanted, they're like, I want to read a story about somebody who's not in their 20s or their 30s, I want to read a story about maybe somebody in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, or even octogenarians, because sex does not disappear once you leave that cusp of true adulthood of the 30s. So, that it's important to get out there. And if you're having, a 20-year relationship, obviously, there's that element in there. And it's important to have these stories out there that kind of break the romance mold.
Right. I agree. I gotten a lot of email about exactly that. So I tried to give it to you.
Give them what they want, Georgia.
Give them what they want.
You've been doing that for years, obviously. You know, you've been successful at it. I want to get back to food, though, because now I'm hungry.
All right.
So, Georgia, favorite type of food, favorite part of cooking, favorite meal to share, create. What's yours?
Those are interesting questions. Let's see. Favorite type of food. That's, you know what? That's awfully broad. That is awfully broad because there's very little food that I do not like. But interestingly, I stopped eating meat last fall.
Wow.
That's been quite a journey for me.
Just red meat or all meat?
All meat. I eat fish, except I eat shellfish. I don't eat lobster or crab. And it's been interesting because there are things. It's a sacrifice because I like meat. I didn't stop because I don't like meat. I didn't eat a lot of it, but I ate meat. So I miss my mother's meatballs terribly. And bacon. The smell of bacon is just mean. It's just mean.
That's at least more people aren't vegetarians is bacon, you know.
I think so. And, you know, I live with a woman whose father was a meat cutter, so she has not stopped eating meat. So it's just me.
So what made you make the decision?
Pardon me?
What made you go in that direction?
I will tell you the honest truth. I don't know if either of you saw, what is it? We're in March now. Probably it was September because that was the point for me. I don't know if either of you saw the Chipotle animated ad. Do you know which one I'm talking about with the scarecrow?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it. No.
You should look it up on YouTube and watch it. It has Fiona Apple singing "Pure Imagination" in the background, and it's about this. And it's all animated. It's a cartoon, and it's about the scarecrow who works for this big food corporation, and he's like the handyman. And his job is to go to the corporation and he fixes things all day long. He fixes loose boards and falling hinges. And every time he fixes something, you know, he peeks in and there's, you know, the chicken being shot up with steroids and there's the cow that's hooked up to machinery and being milked to within an inch of her life. And I started to cry. And they're cartoons, for God's sake. I'm such a sap. But it just affected me in such a way. It was like the last straw for me because I've always been a very big lover of animals, and as I get older, I get sappier, and I've just found that I can't bear the thought of something having to be killed so that I can eat.
You know, Einstein did that.
You know, so I don't do it anymore, and I don't push it on anybody. I don't expect everybody to make special meals for me. I will just eat around the meat. You know, I'm not crazy. I'm not you know, militant about it. It's my choice. It's what I do for me. And I'm good. I slip here and there. I made corned beef and cabbage on St. Patrick's Day for my wife, and I had to have a hunk of it because it was so good. And then I felt awful afterwards. I felt bad for the cow. So then I was like, okay. But I mean, it's been a choice, and it's been hard, but I'm proud of myself. It's something that I wanted to do, and I feel better about it.
That's awesome. You know, I love that it's, you know, it's a choice of conscience that you've made, and you know, I think also that you handle it in such a way that says, this is about me. This is not about, so you don't have to, the world doesn't have to move for me. I will move with the world.
Exactly.
You know, is highly responsible. Because so many people, you know, they turn around, they're like, well, I have a special dietary whatever. So please cater to my every whim. If not, you don't love me.
Exactly. That's not me at all. You know, and my family is they're big eaters, and you had asked me what I like to cook, and so this has been new for me because now I'm trying to come up with new things to make, and I do a lot of things that are in the crock pot. I like one dish meals. I'm good at one dish meals, so I'll make a stew or a soup or something like that. I've tried a lot of fake meat, most of which is not very good. Luckily, I do like tofu, so I don't have a problem with that. I used, when I say the fake meat is not very good, I will take that back and say that the crumbles that are supposed to be ground beef, but they're made of soy, those work. I can still make chili with that, and nobody knows the difference. I have fed everybody in this house my chili with fake meat, and they've all loved it, so it works.
Awesome.
So, listeners, there's something terribly exciting aside from sharing music. For our food segment, we actually will talk, we'll get a recipe up on our Facebook, something that Georgia likes to cook. And it's so fantastic that we discovered your vegetarianism. So, you can actually share maybe one or two of the things that you really love that you've
How
started to
about your
create.
chili? Because now I'm hungry.
Okay, I can do that. It's easy. Chili's easy, JD.
You know, I've done all kinds of really amazing things with, you know, different kinds of beans, but I've never actually made. Well, no, I made a sort of like a turkey-based chili once. You know, and that's pretty much it. Just the once, and I kind of borrowed a flavor packet and hoped for the best when I stuck the beans in it. But I've never actually made, you know, sat there and said, I'm going to make a chili, a real chili. You know.
It's not hard. Then I have a couple different recipes. I can make regular chili, and then I have a veggie chili that's just to die for.
Awesome. Awesome.
I have so much enjoyed your company and the chemistry between the three of us. It's been fantastic. But unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our episode. Don't cry.
No!
But parting is such sweet sorrow.
Oh my goodness. So, Georgia, what I'd like to do is maybe you can give us a parting comment, something about what we've spoken about today, something that you'd like our listeners to take away from this episode.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure, Liz. Something wise, and that sounds like I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, shit.
You could just be a smartass. You're good at that.
Sorry.
Oh,
Actually,
man.
we're all kind of good at that, but you know.
That is a lot of pressure.
All right. I'll retract that. What is one food you can't live without? It can be sweet or savory.
Cheese.
Cheese. What about you, JD? What's something that you cannot live without?
Chris.
Aww.
Aww. I thought you said food. You said food, didn't you?
Well,
Oh, no,
well, if we get dirty,
food
then
for
she
me.
is.
hey.
Now I look like a shit.
Well, I'm gonna say chocolate. You know, I love it. I love it.
Food. Starbucks.
Oh yes, coffee.
Oh, food. You meant food. Starbucks.
Coffee. I love me some coffee. My favorite thing in New York City is Think Coffee. So this has been fantastic. I've enjoyed your music and learning all these different facets about you that I did not learn from you when you were on the Liz McMullen Show and Lizzie's Bedtime Stories. So I feel quite fortunate, and I want to thank you for spending time with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I am so honored to be on your new show. I hope it's a huge success.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you know, I'm hoping that maybe sometime in the future you'll come back on and maybe the three of us will grill some fourth unsuspecting person.
Sweet!
Fun.
That's what I was thinking, actually, because I'm like, it's good chemistry, it's good, it's just good mix. And I was thinking as we're talking, you know, we should maybe, if you'd like and if you'd be interested, I'm thinking maybe every couple of months or so, let's have you be one of our guest interviewers.
I can do that.
I think it'd be fun.
Okay.
You know?
That's totally an awesome idea, and I'm in full support. And Georgia, it's been fantastic to have you on. You are our first guest, and it's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Georgia. It's awesome, and I'm looking forward to seeing you later this year at the different events we're going to be at. We're going to be at the Golden Crown Literary Society. You're going to be at Women's Week. Yep. So it sounds like it's a very, very just exciting and kind of, hey, back to the world kind of year. So it's going to be good.
Yes, indeedy.
Yep.